we saw a big spike in poverty among white Americans last year, and I'm trying to figure out how did that happen?
Yeah, a big spike in white poverty, and black poverty continues to be double that of white poverty. But the fact is that poverty is increasing across the board, and the additional fact is that government spending and government programs have exponentially grown. So one has to ask oneself, are those government programs effectively dealing with inequality and poverty? And I think that is a
Right.
very controversial topic that one has to say, you know what? The data indicates that the more handouts the government gives, the less effective they are.
Yeah, and to your point, Kathryn, from 1972 to 2012, the federal government went from 5 social safety net programs to 13, just in that time period. Of course, since then, even more have been added. But the underlying problems continue to get worse. And I can't get anyone to ever explain to me why this time will be different. We know there's a lot more on the drawing board. There's a new program, a $1.5 trillion program that the Biden administration is teeing up. But we've added layer after layer after layer, program after program after program. Is there something, why doesn't this get to the root of the problem?
I guess, Charles, we should ask ourselves, why would this time be different? If we're just compounding the same failed policies and entrenching and redoing the same failed policies over and over, why would we expect any different result? If we were talking about cutting, payroll taxes or allowing corporations to keep more of their money, because, as a supply side economist, I like to think that less government means more independent and personal freedom and more independent liberty to pursue wealth creation. So small businesses, private enterprises, that's where it's at. Fomenting
Right.
and growing small companies and job growth, allowing people to find himself and herself a paycheck
Right.
that's sustainable, rather than compounding failed policies with additional top-offs and weekly unemployment benefits. That's just not going to solve the problem. And it's unfortunate that we're continuing going down that route.
Kathryn Rooney Vera, thank you very, very much. I want to bring back now AGF Investment Strategist, Chief Strategist, Greg Valliere. And Greg, I was trying to do a build-up here with looking at the Great Society and the New Deal, and now more recently the sharp increase in poverty, particularly among white Americans. The government's been printing out a lot of money for a long time, and that doesn't seem to work. Why?
Well, in the Great Society, we had the Vietnam War, we had a stagnant economy, and the money just didn't work. It just added to more and more inflation. I worry the same thing is going to happen this time. I think poverty numbers might improve a bit. I'll bet you an adult beverage, Charles, this summer that the numbers will look better because of the $1,400 checks and the $300 unemployment weekly benefits. But at the same time, you would have to say there are unintended consequences that are, I think, seriously out of whack. I do think inflation will go higher. The deficit is out of control. So there's a cost to doing this, but I do think the poverty numbers will improve as we get into the summer.
They improved after LBJ made his trip through the Appalachia as well, but they improved just momentarily, right? This is not a long-term solution, I think, is what I'm wondering here.
Yeah, I think some people take advantage of it. Some people maybe shouldn't be enjoying this. I heard your previous piece about restaurants in Florida. I have a good friend who owns a restaurant, can't find any workers because they're getting $300 a week. They got $1,400 as a check. They're going to take the summer off. Now, this program ends, the unemployment program ends on September 8th, and I do not think it'll be renewed. So at that point, we might get more realistic data. But while it's good to lower the poverty rate, and I think that's going to happen, I think the consequences are quite negative.
Well, I tell you what, we'll go double or nothing on that adult beverage because I think they will be renewed until the midterm elections. Speaking of elections, Greg, there's always political ramifications, right? And we see the government spending a lot of money. For instance, we've got a lot of people who are now rushing up to our southern border, immigrants who want to come into this country. That costs millions of dollars. President Biden's going to go around the world now cutting deals, perhaps cutting checks to places like Iran. And I'm wondering the political impact. When you see a spike in white poverty to the degree we saw just in the last year, I think this explains why so many people still gravitate to President Trump and why so many people still don't believe that big government is the answer. How could this sway the elections, the midterms?
Well, it could. I think that the Biden agenda has pretty good numbers, better than Biden himself, ironically. But yes, it could be a factor as we go into the 2022 election. But at the same time, if unemployment gets to 5%, and I'll bet you another adult beverage that the unemployment rate will be at or below 5% at Christmas, that's a powerful plus for the Democrats.
Poverty was going down. We had record level lows poverty for 2019 for Black Americans, Hispanics, Asians. We saw the wage gap narrow, the unemployment gap between the races narrow. We saw blue collar wages up for almost 2 years straight after the tax cuts. Ultimately, which one is better in your mind? A society where government is cutting a whole lot of checks and taking on a whole lot of debt, or a government that's allowing companies and individuals to keep more of their own money, and that money can circulate and create opportunities?
I'd always go with the tax cuts. If you're going to spend money, I'd rather spend money on taxes than government programs. I think the data over the last couple of decades would support that argument.
But near term, though, you think things are going to be, I mean, listen, you print a lot of money. I think it was Jim Rogers that say, if he showed you $1 trillion, if you gave him $1 trillion, he'd show you a good time. There's a lot of money sloshing around, though. And what I guess the big concern is, at some point, the taxes are going to go up to pay for it. At some point, the debts will go up. At some point, interest rates will go up. When you measure these things over a period of time, and I've got less than a minute to go, Greg, will it have been worth it?
Well, I look at the markets, Charles. I mean, you've got to say that the Treasury 10-year bond yield at 1.6, it shows that they're not all that concerned about it in the bond market. And you look at the stock market, I mean, it's off to the races. So if for now, at least, the markets can tolerate this. Later in the decade, right, I don't think we can handle the debt servicing costs.
Yeah, it's going to be well over $1 trillion. Greg, thank you very much, my friend. Glad we got that audio issue fixed.